Governors Association will today urge the government to abolish jail terms of less than 1 year in favour of community sentences, which could see criminals, including burglars, drug abusers, shoplifters and some violent offenders, escaping custodial sentences. The association is expected to say the record rise in the prison population reflects a failure in the government's policy and that there's little evidence that short prison sentences actually work. So what do we make of these proposals? Is this the right way to go forward, or is prison sentences still the right punishment?
Well, I think there has to be some alternative, because at the end of the day, prisoners aren't afraid of prison. The criminals just aren't frightened anymore, are they? They see it. I mean, I met a taxi driver and his brother went to prison. He said it was a better home for him than he had at home. And I think this is the fear now. There's no fear. When they go into the court, they're not frightened of what's going to happen to them. You know, that's what's gone. So I think there has to be some kind of alternative. I mean, you have to stop people being put in prison, say, for instance, for not paying their council tax. How ridiculous is that, one? And I think there's lots of things. I mean, I have always had this...
He's saying that it's violent offences, it's... what was the other thing he said?
Burglars, drug abuse.
Minor drug deals. What's how minor is a drug deal?
That's not the point. I still think there has to be some alternative. We have to have something else. We have to have something that people are going to realise what they've done. Face the people. Face the victims. You know, I help run a Only Thornton Horses, which is a sanctuary for abused and tortured creatures, animals, horses, whatever. You know, if some of the children that we're possibly talking about here was taken somewhere like that and shown how to look after, say, even an animal. I mean, the thing is,
Sherrie,
you know...
I think that's lovely. I just don't think it's a big enough deterrent.
No, I'm not saying it's a deterrent. I'm saying let's start somewhere other than slamming them in jails. That's all I'm saying.
I think the problem is, I mean, what worries me is that this guy is actually, like, saying that things, you know, the type of crime that he listed, I consider serious. I think crime is crime at the end of the day.
Totally right.
And I think that, you know, what worries me is we've got to a stage where we're actually saying that those sort of crimes don't warrant a custodial sentence.
No,
how bad have things got?
You see, you're generalising. What we're talking about...
I'm picking up on what the guy said.
All right,
if
there's a burglar then, and he's only committed a burglary once, what do we do? Lock him up for 5 years then?
Well, I think it's the best deterrent we have. Perhaps we do need to come up with an alternative.
Deterrent. They don't see...
You don't think they'd be scared of going to prison for a year?
Well, they won't be scared of going to prison for a year. That's the point.
And also, there is, well, there's a general view that going to prison actually teaches you to be a better criminal a lot of the time. And people who go in there, you know, for short sentences, I'm not sure short sentences work either. But what I think is that the criminal justice system, I think, is in a total mess. And I think that sentences are not handed out to the right people. And I do think that the prisons, most of the time, are full of people who really don't need to be there. And as a result of that, because there aren't the places, the people who really should be in there aren't in there. Well, so, you know, that does need to be sorted out. But I don't think by abolishing all short sentences and leaving people on the streets to do community service, whatever, but I think there has to be a kind of a real sort of clampdown on 3 strikes or 2 strikes, and you really are in there for a long time. Because however nice it is, and it is quite nice in prison these days, you know, compared to what it used to be, you still don't have your freedom. But you see, people don't worry about that anymore because they're on short-term sentences and they get out in 5 years.
We need a really strong alternative that has as much impact.
Well, what about making prison life a little less comfortable? What about the old days when actually you don't have tellies and you don't have a menu every day and a choice of what you eat, and you do get up at the crack of dawn and you go and do a very unpleasant day's work? But,
Kate, that is never going to happen. That's unrealistic. That is never going to happen, is it? Ever. We're never going to do that now. We've gone too far. There's the human rights. We're never going to do that. So there has to be something else.
Well, I tell you what, something that we have managed to see at work in New York, and they're talking about abolishing these 1-year sentences and putting people out into the community service. In America, if you're on community service and you've committed a crime, you literally wear your crime on your chest. I am Dave, I steal from old ladies. And is that not a better incentive than planting pansies for the local council?
I think that's great. But what about a vigilante, someone who decides to take the law into his own hands and actually comes up and stabs somebody because of what they've done?
These people are escorted by the police while they're doing it. They are being monitored. The greatest thing they have to face is their own shame, and isn't that about right? Yes. I think.
The justice system is a mess in this country, and it needs to be looked at. It needs to be looked at now, Conservative government.
OK, don't forget, you can join in the debate. You can join in the